Namaste, and welcome to our continuing series on the life divine with our beloved Ranga. We are today continuing in the chapter Supermind, Mind, and the Overmind Maya. We're on page 291, but that could be different from many different editions. We're in the last paragraph, beginning with, "It is in the latter alternative that we find the secret we are seeking."
Right. So, as usual, we'll just read out the summary of the previous para so that we get the continuity. Okay? Once the subliminal door opens to man, he can find it possible to rise into the spiritual planes of consciousness. It becomes easier. You can rise into the superconscient even without the going into the intraconscient. That's what happened to Sri Aurobindo. This is the upward ascent through the head center. Man can enter the ideal planes. Sri Aurobindo uses the word ideal planes for the spiritual planes of consciousness, which are the higher mind, the higher mind, the illumined mind, the intuitive mind, and the overmind. Okay, these are the ideal planes. Man can enter the ideal planes through the intraconscient. It is easier. Intraconscient is the subliminal or the inner being. The usual common result of this ascent is the entry into a vast, static, silent self, which is experienced as our own real self. It is the source and base of all that the individual is. Thus, this self can be experienced in various ways. It could be a nirvana, a reality nameless, featureless, infinite, static, silent, indefinable, inexpressible, immutable. It is the complete extinction of all the active being. The world becomes a shadow play of empty forms, even complete illusion. But we may also experience it as a cosmic consciousness in which we find our own self to be the self of all. There is an identification with all else as our own being. This nirvana state can lead to a logical conclusion as the effacement of all existence, a complete negation, an infinite transcendent nihil. That's a Buddhistic philosophy. But the second variation is less negative. The second variation, the cosmic consciousness. The second variation is less negative. In the cosmic consciousness, there can come a downpour of large light, knowledge, power, ananda. These supernormal powers give access to the Supreme Spirit. This condition is clearly far beyond the ignorance of our normal waking state. Here again, there are two possibilities. Either we have a spiritual dynamic force in the world, or we may get knowledge and the mind is no longer in ignorance. The first is a saguna. The second is a nirguna. So many possibilities he has described. The saguna is seeing the divine with qualities. The world is not unreal to you. Nirguna, the impersonal aspect of the divine, but you don't see the physical world as unreal in the cosmic consciousness. So this is what he has said. So now we start reading the paragraph. In the next paragraph we have to read today. It is in the latter alternative. The former alternative was the intraconscient. The latter is the upward rise into the... And when you rise there, you will find what you are looking for. The mystery, the solution to the mystery of the universe. Okay? So, it is in the latter alternative that we find the secret we are seeking, the means of the transition, the needed step towards a supramental transformation. For we perceive a graduality of ascent, a communication with more and more deep and immense light and power from above, a scale of intensities which can be regarded as so many stairs in the ascension of mind or in a descent into mind from that which is beyond it. We are aware of a sea like downpour of masses of a spontaneous knowledge which assumes the nature of thought but has a different character from the process of thought to which we are accustomed. For there is nothing here of seeking, no trace of mental construction, no labor of speculation or difficult discovery. It is an automatic and spontaneous knowledge from a higher mind that seems to be in possession of truth. It seems to be in possession of truth and not in search of hidden and withheld realities. One observes that this thought is much more capable than the mind of including at once. That the mind of thought is much more capable than the mind of capable of.
Yes.
Thought is much more capable than the mind of including at once a mass of knowledge in a single view. It has a cosmic character, not the stamp of an individual thinking. Beyond this truth thought, we can distinguish a greater illumination instinct with an increased power and intensity and driving force, a luminosity of the nature of truth sight, with thought formulation as a minor and dependent activity. If we accept the Vedic image of the Sun of Truth, an image which in this experience becomes a reality, we may compare the action of the higher mind to a composed and steady sunshine, the energy of the illumined mind beyond it to an outpouring of massive lightnings of flaming sun stuff. Still beyond can be met a yet greater power of the truth force, an intimate and exact truth vision, truth thought, truth sense, truth feeling, truth action, to which we can give, in a special sense, the name of intuition. For though we have applied that word for want of a better to any supra-intellectual direct way of knowing, yet what we actually know as intuition is only one special movement of self-existent knowledge. This new range is its origin. It imparts to our intuitions something of its own distinct character and is very clearly an intermediary of a greater truth light with which our mind cannot directly communicate. At the source of this intuition, we discover a superconscient cosmic mind in direct contact with the supramental truth consciousness, an original intensity determinant of all movements below it and all mental energies, not mind as we know it, but an overmind that covers, as with the wide wings of some creative oversoul, this whole lower hemisphere of knowledge ignorance, links it with that greater truth consciousness, while yet at the same time, with its brilliant golden lid, it veils the face of the greater truth from our sight, intervening with its flood of infinite possibilities as at once an obstacle and a passage in our seeking of the spiritual law of our existence, its highest aim, its secret reality. This then is the occult link we were looking for. This is the power that at once connects and divides the supreme knowledge and the cosmic ignorance. A huge para and fantastic prose, the description We'll read that a little dramatically to appreciate the phrases. It's fantastic. Okay, so we go to each sentence. It is in the latter alternative that we find the secret we are seeking. The means of the transition from the ignorance to the knowledge, from the lower hemisphere to the higher hemisphere. The needed step towards a supramental transformation. Okay, very clear. We are a representation of the cosmos in miniature. We are a mini universe. And the cosmos is the universalized individual. You can say that. Okay? It's like the salt in the ocean. When you evaporate the water, it becomes a crystal salt. That's an individual. But you throw it into the water, it becomes cosmic. It is everywhere. So, he's saying when we go up, we can get the secret of what we are looking for. Not so much in the intraconscient, certainly not below, nor even in the circumconscient.
But to an extent in the intraconscient.
Yeah, you can get more knowledge in the intraconscient, but you don't find the secret of the of what we are seeking. So, now I go to the next phrase. For we perceive a graduality of ascent, a communication with a more and more deep and immense light and power from above, a scale of intensities which can be regarded as so many stairs in the ascension of mind or in a descent into mind from that which is beyond it. First, notice that mind with an M cap. So he is not talking of the normal mortal mind. He is talking of the mind, spiritual planes of consciousness mind. He is talking about the 4 planes. Okay, that's clear. He is saying there is a gradation. You go from one to the other, more and more light, more and more power, more and more consciousness. A scale of intensities which can be regarded as so many stairs in the ascension of mind or a descent into mind of what? From that which is beyond it. And that which is beyond it is Satchidananda. So those things can come into. He has told you afterwards also what it is. Power, knowledge, Ananda, all these things can come pouring down into you. Okay? So, then we go to the next sentence. We are aware, there you are, what comes down. We are aware of a sea-like downpour of masses of a spontaneous knowledge which assumes the nature of thought but has a different character from the process of thought to which we are accustomed. It is not thought as we know it.
Yeah, we need to explain that one
in
detail.
It's a knowledge. What is our thought? We have to look for it. Science also is doing that. In the mind also, if I want to understand maths problem or reading Srimdo, I have to exercise my mind and see what it is, analyze and then do that.
Yes.
Okay, I have to acquire the knowledge through effort. There is no effort at all. It is ready-made for you. That's why he calls it self-existent knowledge. You have to just look at it, you know what it is. And he explains a little further down, he explains. I'll come to that. It's like when our normal mind is like a candlelit room. There are things in the room, but you have to look carefully. You have to look for it. That's our mind. But the higher mind onwards, he says, is like a broad daylight.
That's a beautiful description when we get to that higher mind.
Absolutely.
I hadn't read that before. Is it any place else in his works?
No, this is the one.
This is the one.
Yeah.
Huh? Very beautiful.
He has given, but this particular place he has described exactly.
Yes.
Like a broad daylight. You just look and you know where it is. Much, much easier.
Just in the higher mind.
Yeah. Even in the higher mind. But as you go up, you don't even have to look. That we'll come to that. Okay, so we are aware of a sea-like pouring of masses of a spontaneous knowledge. Spontaneous, no effort, which assumes the nature of thought. So, it seems as though it's a thought in mental terms. You can formulate it maybe in words, okay? But has a different character from the process of thought to which, note, nature of thought, process of thought. Our thinking has a process. We have to make an effort and then we acquire, then we have to judge it whether it is right or wrong, analyze it, and then come to a conclusion. So, what is the nature of thought? Nature of thought is exactly this. So, to which we are accustomed. For there is nothing here of seeking. Here means in the spiritual planes of consciousness, the latter alternative. There is nothing here of seeking, no seeking at all, no trace of mental construction, no labor of speculation or difficult discovery. It is an automatic and spontaneous knowledge from a higher mind that seems to be in possession of truth. In possession of truth, it has the truth, and not in search of hidden and withheld realities. Very clear.
Very clear, yes.
So, no looking, no seeking. All that seeking and all that is in the mind. Okay? Normal mind. One observes that this thought, TCAP, therefore not our thought but the higher mind thought, is much more capable than the mind of, sorry, I again made that mistake. This is much more capable than the mind of including at once a mass of knowledge in a single view. Our mind has to see things one by one. But here you are seeing in a single view, you are encompassing everything in your view.
But he says the higher mind only seems to be in possession of truth.
Much more capable than the mind of including.
Second sentence on the top.
Spontaneous knowledge from a higher mind that seems to be in possession of truth. That's right. Because as you keep going higher and higher, then you possess. He has spoken about the gradation. So here also, you can almost say it is there, but if you look, you will get it. But you are not in possession of it. In possession, you don't even have to look. It's yourself. So, much more capable than the mind of including at once a mass of knowledge in a single view. It has a cosmic character, not the stamp of an individual thinking. So, very clear. Cosmic, you know everything in the cosmos is available to you. Okay. Of an individual thinking. Beyond this truth thought, we can distinguish a greater illumination instinct with an increased power and intensity and driving force, a luminosity of the nature of truth sight with thought formulation as a minor and dependent activity. Now this is interesting because he is saying there is a greater illumination with an increased power and intensity. At the purely higher mind level, power is not there so much, because even when you go to the self, you are in the higher mind, but there is no power. But as you keep going element mind, power starts coming in. That's what he's saying. No? We can distinguish a greater illumination, instinct with an increased power. A little power is there in the higher mind, but here it is more, and intensity and driving force, a luminosity of the nature of truth sight. Now, truth sight comes in. You see the reality with thought formulation as a minor and dependent activity.
Interesting.
That's interesting. So, what you see, you are capable of putting into thought, words. Okay? Truth sight with thought formulation as a minor and dependent activity. So thought formulation clearly is what you see there, you can put into language. Formulation. That's very clear. You can put it into language. In a minor and dependent activity. If we accept the Vedic image of the Son of Truth, an image which in this experience becomes a reality, we may compare the action of the higher mind to a composed and steady sunshine. There you are. Okay? The energy of the illumined mind beyond it to an outpouring of massive lightnings of flaming sun stuff. So the higher mind is steady sunlight. The element mind is lightning flashes of flaming sun stuff. Look at the language.
Yeah, it's so beautiful.
Fantastic. Okay. Still beyond, so he has now told you about higher mind and element mind. Now still beyond is intuition and overmind. So there he is going to describe. Still beyond can be met a yet greater power of the truth force, an intimate and exact truth vision, truth thought, truth sense, truth feeling, truth action, to which we can give in a special sense the name of intuition. So when you reach the third level, first level, higher mind, second level, element mind, third level, intuition, and there you have all these things. You have truth vision, truth thought, truth sense, truth feeling, truth action. Now, truth sense. Our senses are not giving us a real picture of the world. But there you will get a real picture of the world, not through what you see will be the reality, not through your eyes, because your eyes are defective, not through your ears, because you will, all the senses are there, by the way. That's interesting. There are subtle senses. So you are seeing sight, you are here. That is what he means by drishti, shruti. So not dependent on the physical senses, but the senses exist. Even touch exists there.
But truth action is very interesting.
Even truth action. That means you have the power already to act in the physical world powerfully.
Sri Aurobindo writes somewhere, I can now go into the minds of men. You know it? You know the quote?
It's in the record of your work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful. You
That's
could
right.
go into the mind and change them.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
That's what he was doing. And he said that first I could do it with animals, then I could do it with human beings, then I could act on events.
Yes.
Not human beings, events. Change the course of history. So, an intimate and exact truth vision, truth thought, truth sense, truth feeling, truth action, to which we can give, in a special sense, the name of intuition. For, he is explaining why he is saying special sense. For, though we have applied that word for want of a better to any supra-intellectual direct way of knowing, yet what we actually know as intuition is only one special movement of self-existent knowledge. That knowledge, you don't have to look for it, it is self-existent. Intuition. It comes in and you know the reality, intuition. But when that intuition comes into the mind, it gets coated over with the normal mental substance, he says. So the more pure your mind is, that coating will be less.
Mm-hmm.
Good examples of this is Einstein's theory of relativity. Very clearly, it's not something that you can think out. It's a thing that comes in and you see the truth of that. Then our Ramanujam, very famous case, the mathematician. 3,000 equations he got without thought. Just coming down like that.
I saw a book on Einstein the other day in the Bharat Nivas library, about 750 pages with all of his mathematics. And it says at the very beginning, one more step towards God. Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah. Okay. So now he has described to you higher mind, a broad daylight, element mind, flaming sun stuff, lightning, massive lightning of flaming sun stuff. Still beyond can be met the intuition, and there you have truth vision, truth sight, truth thought, truth sense, truth feeling, truth action, to which we can give, in a special sense, the name of intuition. For, though we have applied that word for want of a better to any supra-intellectual direct way of knowing, yet what we actually know as intuition is only one special movement of self-existent knowledge. This new range is its origin. So, what you are, the intuition, plane of intuition, is the origin of what we normally think of as intuition. He has described intuition as a drop of light that comes into the mind. And you know the truth. This new range is its origin. It imparts to our intuitions something of its own distinct character and is very clearly an intermediary of a greater truth light with which our mind cannot directly communicate. At the source of this intuition, we discover a superconscient cosmic mind in direct contact with the supramental truth consciousness, an original intensity, determinant of all movements below it and all mental energies, not mind as we know it, but an overmind that covers as with the wide wings of some creative oversoul this whole lower hemisphere of knowledge ignorance, links it with that greater truth consciousness, while yet at the same time, with its brilliant golden lid, it veils the face of the greater truth from our sight, intervening with its flood of infinite possibilities as at once an obstacle and a passage in our seeking of the spiritual law of our existence, its highest aim, its secret reality. So, we'll highlight the words he is using for the overmind.
Yeah, this oversoul is very interesting.
Yeah, the oversoul. Yeah, the individual soul and the oversoul. That is. So we'll highlight. So very clearly, he has spoken about the higher mind, element mind, intuitive mind, and then the overmind. And the overmind character very clearly is giving you. All the other three is given you. Higher mind is broad sunlight. Element mind, flaming sun stuff of knowledge. Okay. Then intuition, power, action, sense, all these things come also into picture. Overmind, I'll identify the words for you. Okay. Wide wings of some creative oversoul, this whole lower hemisphere of knowledge ignorance. That's the first highlighting to be done. There is knowledge, but there is also ignorance in the overmind. So you must note that very carefully. It is still a region of ignorance. You see the many. Okay? Links it with this greater truth consciousness, supermind. While yet at the same time, with its brilliant golden lid, it veils the face of that greater truth, supermind, from our sight, intervening with its flood of infinite possibilities. That's another characteristic of the overmind, infinite possibilities. The many start becoming a reality in the overmind. That's why you have 1,000 million gods, each god representing one possibility in the physical world. All the gods live there. Okay. I have to tell the children all the time that these gods are not imaginations. They are real beings who are there.
What about the brilliant golden lid?
Yeah.
What did Mother break through?
That's the one. That's the one that Mother broke. And what is interesting, he's saying it's an obstacle yet a passage. In other words, in other place he uses the word translucent. It is a barrier, yet it is translucent. From the overmind you can glimpse the supermind. He has used the word translucent elsewhere. Okay? So, and that's what he's saying here also. He's saying an obstacle and a passage. It's an obstacle, there is a barrier, but it's also a passage. You can go up. Okay? In our seeking of the spiritual law of our existence, its highest aim is secret reality. The supermind will reveal to you the purpose of manifestation in the physical world, the purpose of life in the world, its secret reality. This then is the occult link we were looking for. This is the power that at once connects and divides the supreme knowledge and the cosmic ignorance. So,
Connects
Supermind,
and divides.
yeah. Supermind is the intermediate plane between the higher hemisphere and the lower hemisphere. It's a borderline. So description very clear, but there is no ignorance in the supermind. But there is ignorance in the overmind.
And duality.
Dualities, you start seeing the dualities, you start seeing the oneness, but you also see the dualities, okay? Because that's ignorance. But you see the oneness also. More and more you start seeing the oneness. Okay? Big para.
When Nalini was asked, where do you live? He said, in the overmind and sometimes a little higher.
That's right. But this is reported by Animadi.
Yes.
And there are many people who say that she is to exaggerate. So you have to take all these things which come through this source, that source,
Yes.
not directly, with a pinch of salt. You can believe and you need not believe very firmly.
But in his birthday message of 1969, Mother wrote en route to the supermind.
Yes. No. Narada was certainly an extraordinary person, no doubt about it. I don't personally disbelieve this. Narada, I don't disbelieve it.
When he says this, then is the occult link.
Huh?
When he says this, then is the occult link.
Yeah.
So this is the overmind, right?
I don't think so. The overmind is not the link. Yeah, I know the language is a little funny. But it is not. The link is the overmind, the supermind. That's a link. If you are in the overmind, okay, you are still in the ignorance. So how can it be a link? Because that golden lid is there. You are below the golden lid. The link is the supermind.
No, but beyond the overmind is the knowledge. Above the overmind is the knowledge, and below the overmind is the ignorance. So that is the link, no? The last sentence where he says, at once connects and divides the supreme knowledge and the cosmic ignorance.
Yeah.
So, supermind itself is the knowledge. So how can we say that supermind is connecting to the knowledge? Supermind itself is the knowledge.
The supermind, elsewhere he has said very clearly that the supermind is a link between the higher and the lower.
And in the next sentence, he is still speaking about the overmind. In its nature and law, the overmind is a delegate of the supermind consciousness.
Okay, let's read further and see. Let's read. But elsewhere he has said very clearly that the link between the two is the overmind. He says it's a common, it's the fourth element from the top and the fourth element from the bottom. So very clearly, Sat, Chit, Shakti, truth consciousness. Matter, life, mind, truth consciousness. So it's a link between the two. He has used the word link also. So here he has used, I know, I also felt that. Yes. But I think the link is the supermind. The overmind is you are still in the region of ignorance. But also knowledge. That's the thing. It's not all ignorance. There's huge amount of knowledge. But still the ignorance is still there. You have not got the solution to everything.
I think maybe the question was because it connects and divides.
Yes.
The supreme knowledge.
Yeah.
Yes.
It connects and divides. So he is describing the overmind. Maybe Anmol can get his solution to in this para. Okay? So, in its nature and law, the overmind is a delegate of the supermind consciousness. It's delegate to the ignorance. Very clear. No? Okay. A delegate to the ignorance. Or we might speak of it as a protective double, a screen of dissimilar similarity through which supermind can act indirectly on an ignorance whose darkness could not bear or receive the direct impact of a supreme light. Okay? So, the overmind cannot bear the supreme light. That's why it is still in ignorance. It can't be the link. Even it is by the projection of this luminous overmind, corona, that the diffusion of a diminished light in the ignorance and the throwing of that contrary shadow which swallows up in itself all light, the inconscience, became at all possible. We'll go into detail afterwards. For supermind transmits to overmind all its realities, but leaves it to formulate them in a movement and according to an awareness of things which is still a vision of truth, yet at the same time the first parent of the ignorance. Okay? Very clear. So, a line divides supermind and overmind, which permits a free transmission. Okay? That free transmission is the translucence that we were talking about. Allows the lower power to derive from the higher power all it holds or sees, but automatically compels a transitional change in the passage. The integrality of the supermind keeps always the essential truth of things, the total truth and the truth of its individual self-determinations clearly knit together. It maintains in them an inseparable unity, and between them a close interpenetration and a free and full consciousness of each other. But in overmind, this integrality is no longer there. Okay? We'll come back to it. And yet, the overmind is well aware of the essential truth of things. It embraces the totality. It uses the individual self-determinations without being limited by them. But although it knows their oneness, can realize it in a spiritual cognition, yet its dynamic movement, even while relying on that for its security, is not directly determined by it. Overmind energy proceeds through an illimitable capacity of separation and combination of the powers and aspects of the integral and indivisible, all-comprehending unity. It takes each aspect or power and gives to it an independent action in which it acquires a full separate importance and is able to work out, we might say, its own world of creation. Purusha and Prakriti, conscious soul and executive force of nature, are in the supramental harmony a two-aspected single truth, being and dynamis of the reality. There can be no disequilibrium or predominance of one over the other. In overmind, we have the origin of the cleavage, the trenchant distinction made by the philosophy of the Sankhyas, in which they appear as two independent entities. Prakriti, able to dominate Purusha and cloud its freedom and power, reducing it to a witness and recipient of her forms and actions. Purusha, able to return to its separate existence and abide in a free self-sovereignty by rejection of her original overclouding material principle. So, with the other aspects or powers of the divine reality. One and many, divine personality and divine impersonality, and the rest. Each is still an aspect and power of the one reality, but each is empowered to act as an independent entity in the whole, arrive at the fullness of the possibilities of its separate expression, and develop the dynamic consequences of that separateness. At the same time, in our mind, this separateness is still founded on the basis of an implicit underlying unity. All possibilities of combination and relation between the separated powers and aspects, all interchanges and mutualities of their energies are freely organized and their actuality always possible. So, Huge. So, he's very clear about it, but it is so difficult to describe something which is that truth. But basically, what he's saying is that in the supermind, there is oneness. The integrality is there. But if you go back to the triple status of supermind, you will see that it holds the multiplicity without becoming the multiplicity. It holds the multiplicity. But in the overmind, the multiplicities become realities. Purusha, Prakriti, one, many. Okay? Personality, impersonality. They're separate. That's what he says. Even at the overmind level, he says that spirit and matter seem to be different. You don't get the oneness. So you have to go even higher up to get the oneness. You see both as real, but you see them as separate. That's what he says elsewhere. Okay? So, very clearly, the overmind is the region, is the parent of all multiplicity. Each one gets the power to become its own nature. So you can think of anything, okay? It's easier to think of principles. Truth and falsehood. Falsehood has the right to express itself fully in the physical world. If you take generosity and miserliness, it has a right to fulfill itself fully in the physical world. That's what he's saying. It's the origin of the dualities.
When you say they have a right,
Yes, that's what he says.
very important.
Yes. The overmind gives it the right. Yes, go and express yourself fully. That's why the world is full of dualities and they're all valid.
So genocide is valid.
Is valid from the divine point of view because he is expressing all possibilities are possible. All the things that are there are possible. Perfectly justified from that point of view. Here is not justified.
But totalitarianism, Sri Aurobindo had to fight against that.
No, of course. Here in the physical world you have to fight.
Got it. Yes.
The dualities are valid and you have to fight the dualities. Of course you can't accept falsehood. But it has a right to exist. But you have to fight it to go up. We'll take it up in detail next time. But here you can see very clearly,
Yes.
Anmol,
Yes, Ranganath.
this makes it very clear. Huh? So the overmind is not the link. The link is the supermind, which has got both the one as well as the many. The overmind has got the many much more than the one, but there is an underground or rather a background of oneness is available there, he says. A faint oneness is there, and with that background you see the many much more real.
Very good.
Okay? We stop here today.
Namaste all.